Local presentation of Read About It is made possible in part by a grant from Cox Communications of Oklahoma City, proud sponsor of this effort to promote reading, education, and literacy in our community. The following public service program is brought to you by the Metropolitan Library System. And now, Read About It with your host, BJ Williams.
We have a great show for you today, including a talk with Oklahoma author Jack Myers, who'll be telling us about his World War II experiences in his book, Shot at and Missed. But first, coming up, Doug Benton is going to talk with Susie Beasley about a book she found to enjoy.
Susie, how are you?
I'm fine.
Good. You've brought a book, I guess it's a cookbook.
Yes.
It's called The Convenience Cook. Now,
Right.
this is recipes of food that you can buy at a convenience store, right? So it's all Twinkies and Fritos,
no. This is a book that you can just put meals together from boxes and bottles and cans. Of course, you can get those from convenience stores, but the whole thing is it is very, very good food, prepared well, and it reminds you of made from scratch, but you got less cooking time. And it's about 125 recipes.
Well, that's quite a bit. So this is for the person on the go, male or female?
Male
right?
or female. The recipes are laid out in a nice fashion. They're suitable for any occasion. When you want to, do chili mac or whatever, it gives you an easy way to do it without you, having to go in and bring out, 14 different pots and pans just to do one particular dish. And because of the time-saving factor, we're doing more things. We have less time to get what we need to do done. So cooking is one of the things that we don't really have to spend a lot of time doing. We can do, with this cookbook, you can do it in a fraction of the time and still have good food.
I mean, I can remember my bachelor days, eating meant holding the pot in one hand and the spoon in the
That
other.
is correct. That is correct.
Leaning over the sink.
That's right.
But this is a step up from
This
that.
is
At
a
least
step
one
up from
step
that,
up.
right? Because it has really good, delicious dishes in here. Shepherd pie, beef stroganoff. Has some desserts also. Some butterscotch baked peaches. That is so good. It is so tasty, and also they have garlic chili shrimp. So there's some different ones in here, and a lot of them will remind you of the food that you had when you were growing up.
Yeah, I know when Julie and Ruby come on and they talk about cookbooks, one of them likes pictures in the book, and one of them doesn't like pictures because she feels intimidated by it. Is this illustrated?
It does have illustrations. This particular author, Judith Finlayson, she has written 2 other books. One is called the 150 Best Slow Cooker Recipes, and then Delicious and Dependable Slow Cooker Recipes. So this is kind of like an offshoot from that, but you're not using the slow cooker, and it's still taking the less time to prepare them.
Yeah. Well, the slow cooking is nice too, because that's the kind of thing you can start in the morning.
That's
and then
right.
It's
And
ready
you come
when
home
you come home.
and it's like, wow, and it's great too, because you don't have to worry about having to go and pull something out in the last minute.
Okay. Well, this one though is The Convenience Cook. It's by Judith Finlayson. Susie, thanks for bringing it in.
Thank you.
I know it is wet, and the sun is not sunny.
Hi, my name is Jose Jimenez of your Metropolitan Library Commission. You know, most experts tell us that if you just spend 20 minutes a day reading to your child, you're not only building a bond that lasts a lifetime, but you're also preparing that child to learn how to read. Check with the experts at your Metropolitan Library for suggestions on just the right books for you and your family. And visit us at our website at www.metrolibrary.org.
I have a book that I want to talk about today that I'm not sure is still in print, but given the interest in Alexander the Great and the fact that a number of new biographies have come out about him, I thought I would bring out my favorite biography. It's called Alexander of Macedon, a historical biography, and it's by Peter Green. Now, he is the Doherty Centennial Professor of Classics at the University of Texas at Austin. See, I have to read that. I can't remember.
Can't remember that. That's
He is a novelist, a translator, and a scholar, and all of this shows in his books. They are beautifully written, very easy to read, very intriguing. They just sort of pull you along. And I want to read a little section where he talks more about the myth of Alexander, since I think that's what most of us are concerned with more than the
sure the films
actuality.
too, yes.
Yes. Let's see. This argument will leave judgment very much at the mercy of contemporary fashions and preoccupations, a fate to which Alexander, who has always tended to involve his interpreters' emotions at least as much as their reasoning faculties, is, to judge by the record, peculiarly prone. Everyone uses him as a projection of their own private truth, their own dreams and aspirations, fears and power fantasies. Each country, each generation sees him in a different light. Every individual biographer, myself included, inevitably puts as much of himself, his own background and convictions, into that protean figure as he does of whatever historical truth he can extract from the evidence. The power and fascination of Alexander's character are undeniable and operate as strongly on modern scholars as they did on his Macedonian veterans. The king's personality is so strong, so idiosyncratic, that it comes through despite all the propaganda, pro or con, the smears, the eulogies, the starstruck mythologizing. And part of the reason we're not quite sure what he was, other than an absolute genius, probably one of the best military commanders the world has ever seen, he still studied at the War College, by the way, is that the 40 years after his death were a period of great war, while his companions fought over who was going to be able to hold on to what piece of the Near and Middle East that Alexander had conquered. And propaganda is not something new. We didn't come up with it in the 20th century. These guys, even though the Greeks saw the Macedonians as a bunch of hairy barbarians who probably scratched when they ate, knew a great deal about propaganda. And each one of them was claiming, no, when Alexander was on his deathbed and he said, I give my heritage to the strongest, he meant me, because I was always his good friend. And so there were a lot of stories told about Philip's death. His father did Alexander have him killed. There were a lot of stories told about who may possibly have poisoned Alexander and his favorite Hephaestion. You'll find all of that in this book by Peter Green, and as I said, there are a number of other excellent biographies that you can find in the bookstore. But if you can get a copy of this through interlibrary loan or at your library, read Peter Green's book. It's good.
It's the one, okay.
It's the one. And coming up next, we've got Kids Corner, and Fran Harbert is going to tell us about a book just for our young adults.
Hello, and with us today is Fran Harbert. She's the children's librarian at Del City Library, and we're so happy that she could be here today. Fran, you brought a great book. Can you tell me the name of it?
It's United Tates of America.
The United Tates of America, and it's written by Paula Danziger.
Yes.
And you brought it because...
Well, it's one of the Sequoia books. The Sequoia Award is one that the Oklahoma Library Association presents each year, and it's a long-standing, highly esteemed award. The United Tates of America is on this year's reading list. Students in Oklahoma read the books from the list, and then they vote on the winner.
Wow, that must be great. So this is on the list because...
Well, it was
fun.
and it was selected by a committee, members from the Oklahoma Library Association. The Tates that are in the book are a family. There's a mother and a dad, and then two daughters. The older daughter is Sarah, but she is called Skate Tate.
Oh, okay.
And she's the main character, and she tells the story. And it starts about the time of year when school starts, and goes along, and she has friends in the story, and interesting people.
Well, it looks like almost a travel book.
Well, there is some travel in it. The family does have a vacation, and they go along and tell different parts of the vacation.
Now, there's a character in the book called Gum.
Yes, Gum is Skate's uncle. And she loves him dearly. He doesn't live with them, but he does come and go throughout the story. And he does make possible the vacation that the family takes.
Oh, so
near the
he's a
end.
special guy and he makes things
Yes.
happen.
Yes.
Excellent. There's something about boys acting like ducks.
Yes. There are 3 boys. Skate encounters them in the very first chapter. They quack, they waddle, they flap their wings, and she goes down on the bus, gets on the bus, and here they come down the aisle quacking and carrying on. And all through the book, there they are, quacking and waddling.
There's so many fabulous parts of this book, and it's for kids ages
It's in our section for 5th and 6th graders.
5th and 6th graders. We hope that you'll look for this book, The United Tates of America by Paula Danziger. You can find it at your local bookstore or at your favorite library.
Thanks, Fran and Kelly. And Doug, it looks like you have a few books here.
I brought a couple with me today, but you know, I would just as soon talk about the concept behind the books as the books themselves.
Okay.
Although I will talk about the books too. There's a small group, fairly small group of mostly male crime writers right now who just adore the 50s crime stories. That era when they were not moving from pulp magazines to paperback originals. And they have this thing for the writers of that era, especially the ones who are writing hard-boiled stories and noir kind of thrillers. And every once in a while, one of these guys will be revived, excuse me, from the old days. Well, there's a new imprint in paperback publishing now. It's called Hard Case Crime. You're smiling, or you're trying not to smile.
I'll go
But
ahead and
what these
laugh.
guys are doing, they're bringing out 2 volumes a month. One of them is an old book that they're reviving. And the second title will be a new book, first publication, in the style of the old books. And I don't know, I haven't been looking, I don't know if we've shown the covers of the first 2 books that they've brought out, but they're definitely retro stylings, okay?
So if you've redone your living room to the fashionable retro 50s, then it would be very appropriate to put on your poodle skirt and read these books?
Well, depending on how trashy you want to be. Okay.
Oh, okay.
They're not great literature by any stretch of the imagination, although they're not bad either. Let me read a section from one of the books. It's called Fade to Blonde, a thriller about the man and the woman, very much of it like a James M. Cain story. But our first-person narrator says, Joan Healy was the most generous and least worried person I know. She was about 35 and looked 10 years younger and acted like a high school girl who just discovered malteds. I never figured out whether she thought she was ugly enough that she had to take what she could get, or beautiful enough that she had the civic duty to spread it around. Her boyfriends tended to be the kind of men you find with women like that. Her roommate stole from her. This interested her, the stealing, and she'd speculate about how they did it and how much they got. She was a big, soft-looking girl with energetic brown eyes and still trusted everybody she met and believed every story she heard. I was always glad to see Joni because it meant nobody had killed her yet.
Lord.
Yeah, I mean, you have that sense of that hard-boiled kind of withdrawal. He likes the girl, but he knows that she's going to die, and he's doesn't sound really all that concerned about it. I think the beauty in that passage is the word "yet" at the very end. That's the indication of inevitability. The other book of the first 2 that came out was called Grifter's Game, and it's an early novel by Lawrence Block. It's not a very good one, but if you're reading the Matt Scudder series now and you're a fan of his, you might want to check it out just to see where he came from.
Okay. Can we get those books at the library?
Yes, we've got them. They're not cataloged, so you'll have to go to the paperback racks and look for them.
Coming up next, we have Heidi Daniel Morgan talking with one of our summer teen volunteers. Jenna Walcott is going to tell us about a book she found time to read in between helping us with our summer reading program. That'll work.
Hi Jenna, I'm glad you're here today. You're going to talk about Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, correct? Mm-hmm. Great. Out of the 5 books that have already come out, why did you decide to choose Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban over the others?
Well, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban is the 3rd book of the series that has come out. And the first 2 books are more about Harry trying to figure out what his life is about and trying to figure out who he is and all about the wizarding world. And so by the time the 3rd book has come out, he's pretty well understood that enough. And there's a lot more action in it and a lot more adventure.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was probably one of my favorites too, for those same reasons. What's your favorite part of Prisoner of Azkaban?
Well, toward the end, it has a series of confusing things that happen on, and you get to where you don't know what's going on. It's really confusing, but then all of a sudden something will happen and everything just makes sense, and it's really interesting to see how that works.
So it has a little bit of like suspense and mystery in it too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So it really keeps you like, it was a page turner for me. I just had to keep going
Yeah.
until I knew what was gonna come up at the end and happen. Tell me about some of the characters.
Well, there are a lot of characters, and they're all really interesting. I guess I'll just start with the main characters, Harry, Hermione, and Ron. Harry is a very interesting character because he really cares about his friends a lot. He doesn't ever let them down, and he would risk his life a million times over just to save them. And I really value that a lot. That's he's a really good character. And Hermione is the brainy one. She always solves the mysteries, and she always is great on her grades, and she's just the genius. And Ron's kind of the scaredy cat. He kind of is afraid of things that are going on, but he always comes through with his friends, and he always helps them.
So a lot of really good, admirable characters in this book. So great. Well, really quickly, what was your favorite character?
My favorite character in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban was probably Professor Trelawney. And she was the teacher of divinations class. And I liked her a lot because she really played the part of the divinations teacher, and she had the mystical voice and the outfit. And but it was really obvious that she wasn't very smart about that subject.
Well, thanks for sharing this book with us. It sounds great, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
With me today is Jack Myers. He's an Oklahoma businessman, and he has written a really great book about his experience in World War II. It's called Shot At and Missed. And Jack, here's the question I ask every author I get on my show. What inspired you to write this book?
Well, it came about in an unusual way, really. 8 years ago, my granddaughter was in class in school for advanced learning, and for her project during a National History Book Month, she interviewed me. And she used that interview as her project, and she won for her school, and she went to the city and won there, and won at the state, and they sent her to Washington, D.C. to the finals. And I was so surprised by the amount of interest shown in World War II by elementary school kids. And my daughters insisted that I put all these stories down on paper. And I'd kept a diary when I was in the service, and I had a foot locker full of information that I'd gathered over the years. And so I did, and that's really how it all came about.
Well, you mentioned in your foreword that your older brother had asked you to write to him regularly, and he's the one that gave you the diary, wasn't he?
Yes. He gave me when I went overseas, he was kind of an amateur historian, and I think that in many ways he was living the war through my eyes. And he gave me a diary and asked me to write in it, and asked me to write him a couple of letters a week, and I did. And he saved those letters. I still have them. There was over 91 of them. And of course, that gave me a lot of research material. And then the second bomb group that I was with in Italy, they wrote a history in the early 90s. And of course, that was great to verify dates and and planes that were shot down and so on and so forth. So it really wasn't, that was no problem getting all that information together and researching it. And then I had to intersperse some personal experiences. When I finished the book, I didn't know how I was going to get it published, so if you want to publish a book, what do? Well, I didn't know what to do. I just picked up the yellow pages and I looked under publishers, and the first name it came to is Alexander, James Alexander, whom you know.
Right.
And I went to him and showed him my book, and he said it had enormous promise, but he said it was more work than he wanted to take on because it was such a hodgepodge of stories. But he invited me to join a critique group that he was forming of older fellows that were writing their memoirs about World War II. And he had told me that I should rewrite it, tell the story, my own personal experiences. Jim said that history is the framework of a story, personal experience is the content, and that I should rewrite it more in that respect. And so I did, and it took me almost a year to do it. And because I'm kind of a lucky guy anyway, I sent the first couple of chapters to the University of Oklahoma, and surprisingly they liked it and told me to, when I finished the story, to send the rest of it to them, and I did, and they sent it out to readers and they recommended publishing, and I get my book published. So.
Well, I think it's a great book. And Jim was right to say personal experience, because it really does give you, the reader, a feel for what it was like to be a young kid in a really strange place doing things that scared the living daylights out of him and could have killed him at any point in time. But you get a nice feel for what that was like. I particularly enjoyed the way you described what actually happened when you were in the B-17. I tell you, I got a little frightened myself when you were talking about trying to take off in a B-17, and you, as the bombardier, were right up there at the point, I'm sorry, the nose of the plane, with plexiglass between you and everything that was going on. Obviously a very scary thing.
Well, it was an unusual experience. It's during World War II, the difference between World War II, I think, and the Iraqi war that's going on now, those men are older, and the World War II men were just young kids. And
they've got a B-17 here on, you put photographs in your book, and there is that the kind of plane that you were flying?
yes, that shows a formation of 7 bombers below the B-17. That's the way they formed up. Each squadron was 7 bombers, B-17. Each group was 4 squadrons, 28 planes. And that was a good shot of the formation there. When we took off, I was stationed in Italy, the 15th Air Force, and we'd fly an average of 600 heavy bombers, B-17s and B-24s, every day almost into Germany. Every day that the weather was good enough to fly, I should say.
And you had to go over the Alps to get to Germany.
Yes. The 8th Air Force, flying out of England, was better known than the 15th. They would fly about 1,000 heavy bombers, and with 500 fighter escort.
We're going to have 2 or 3 shots up. This is just another one of the bomber groups, I think.
Yes, this was the mission over Debrecen, Hungary. That was the 20th Squadron, the squadron that I was in. We're starting over the target. You can see the anti-aircraft fire from the formation ahead of us. They went through this, and we were coming into it, this particular picture here.
So whoever was there first got the flak started, and if you were tail end Charlie, you had had a bit of a problem.
You know, I named my book Shot at and Missed because Winston Churchill said, "There's nothing quite as exhilarating as being shot at and missed." And when we started over those targets and they started shooting at us with the anti-aircraft fire, it was exhilarating. And when you're 20 years old, it's pretty exciting, really. You get a rush from it until it starts getting too close. And then if it starts hitting you, then the exhilaration turns to terror. But for a while, it is exhilarating.
Now, you lost some friends over there as well, and I'm sure that was, I thought you described very well the way you reacted to that. You know, 20-year-old kid scared to death part of the time in a strange country, and your friends are just, they're there one minute and the next minute somebody's gathering up their belongings.
Well, that's true. When you're 20 years old, you think you're bulletproof. And you know it's going to happen to some of your friends, but you don't think it's going to happen to you. But after it happens time after time, and you lose more and more of your friends, then I went through that period. I tell about that in my book, where you start wondering you're not bulletproof any longer, and all of a sudden you lose that macho feeling of bravado that you had before. And it seemed like we all had to go through a period like that.
Well, I'm sorry, we are out of time. If people want to know more about Shot at and Missed, they're going to have to buy the book.
Absolutely.
Or check it out from the library. I have to say that, Jack.
Okay.
But you can find Shot at and Missed at your local library and your favorite bookstore.
Hi, I'm Donna Morris, Executive Director of your Metropolitan Library System. You know, experts tell us it's never too early to begin reading to a child. If you spend just 20 minutes a day reading to a child, you're not only building a bond that lasts a lifetime, but you're helping that child to prepare to learn how to read. Visit us at the Metropolitan Library System and let us help you select just the right books for you and your family. And be sure and visit our website at www.metrolibrary.org.
Well, I'm back again with Doug, and we were just talking about the fact that we work at the library.
We do?
We do, yeah, I know.
Is that where I can go every morning?
That new building, that
Yeah.
pretty new building. But we were just talking about the fact that if you would like more cooking books, if you'd like to know more about World War II, or read some hard-boiled mysteries. I can't imagine why. I'm sorry. Or more Harry Potter or whatever. You go to the library because we have got all of that. We've got lots and lots of books on all of these subjects. A good many of the books that
And videos.
and videos and CDs if you're interested in music. So you can go to your local library. You can visit us on the web at www.metrolibrary.org. Our entire catalog is available there. You can actually pick out books and put them on reserve and have them waiting for you at your favorite library to check out. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you again next time.